Welcome everyone, and thanks for joining me for the 2018-2019 season review. Something new, something that I haven't really done before for this series. I'm just going to quickly go through some of the headlines at the moment. You can see that some players have been inducted into the Shrewsbury overall best 11 squad. Players like Perrin, Reece Oxford all start on the subs bench. You can see Danny Ings there, but that is the all-time starting 11. Right, here is the end of season awards. So the fans' player of the season, and rightly so, goes to none other than Todd Kane. Came from Chelsea, and what a magnificent player he has been. He's really fitted into that right back position. James Weslowski claims the goal of the season. That finish, do you remember that finish against Norwich City a couple of episodes back now? Well, I'm going to show it here once it's finished loading the highlight. It was some strike. You can see that it came from a free kick. It was Cole that took it. The ball was headed back out, and Weslowski just absolutely leathers the ball up into that top right-hand corner, which put us 3-0 up against Norwich. The signing of the season is N'Golo Kante from Leicester. Managed to capture him for a sum of 3.2 million. What a signing. He's really fitted into that central midfield. It's been so consistent as well with Kante, Delph and Lewis Reed. You can see some of our records here. Let's have a look at the highest league position. We've been second in the Premier League. That was this season. Never managed to get to first, but maybe we'll be able to change that come next season. Highest attendance was that Man United game at home, 23,000. That was when we were sharing grounds with Birmingham City at the St Andrews before we moved back to the Greenhouse Meadow. And have a look at this as well. I just can't stop looking at it, to be honest. One English FA Cup. Look at what I've managed to achieve over my time here, over these past 4 seasons. One FA Cup, we've got one League One to my name, and where they haven't put down the player final. Do they not do that for the Championship? Because we beat Burnley, didn't we, to get into the Premier League, so it's not there, but I know why I did it anyway. Season review, Shrewsbury were expected to be amongst the leading contenders for a continental football qualification spot, and they lived up to that billing by securing a place for themselves. Were we expected to do that? I don't think so. We finished 4th in the Premier League, as you know. We won the FA Cup, yes. We lost in the 3rd round against Arsenal in the Capital One Cup. Our match of the season was the 4-0 win against Reading, who are now relegated back to the Championship. Our moment to forget was the 3-1 loss against Bournemouth. Our average attendance was 14,692, which was 99% full, and we only used 21 players. And that was certainly the case, especially towards the end of the season, where I was just playing the same team, game in, game out. Right, let's do the end of season team meeting. Right, what can we say to these players? Let's keep them happy. Season is finished. It's time to focus on what we can achieve going forwards. I think we can we could qualify for the Champions League next year. I mean, we did it this year. Yeah. I'm going to be calm as well. I don't want to go for Euro next year. Yeah. Oh, look at that. That's exactly the kind of ambition I want to see from a manager. We'll qualify for the Champions League this season. This season? We've already done it. We'll qualify for it next season. If not better, we could go on to win the league. That would be amazing if we could do that. And season confidence review from the board. We are absolutely delighted with your performance at the club this season. Obviously the highlight being the FA Cup final, that 3-0 win against Liverpool and lifting the trophy down in the capital. The signings you've made this season proved very successful. I'll be going through them in a bit and see how well they've got on. We know obviously how well they've got on because of where we finished in the league. What is this? Price issues season injury report. Not much to mention. Got the yearly training summary. Players like Todd Kane, Sully Kai, Lewis Reed, all part of the impressive. Gogo Nani and Ian Black. Bit concerning there. Nani will probably be retiring anyway, I'm not sure. Pre-season start date to be decided. Right. To start the 1st of July. I normally go for 5 weeks. And this is what I do. Within those 5 weeks, I normally pick smaller teams that I know we can beat, because it's always good to start the new season off with the team's morale sky high. Because if you're playing teams in pre-season like Real Madrid, Barcelona, AC Milan, one after the other, and you're losing those games, morale's going to be low and the players aren't really going to be up for the new season. So it's good to get a couple of wins under your belt, even if they're just friendly games. Right, we got end of current Champions League financial fair play period. We wasn't even in that for last season, so nothing to worry about. We made a profit of 170 million, and we are required to make a loss of no more than 3.57 in order to comply with the regulations. So everything seems okay at the moment when it comes to that. Premier League, the club made a profit of 105. We were below the threshold of 12 million, and we've managed to avoid a tax hit as well, which is always nice to see. As long as you're winning games and you're winning competitions and you're not spending too much in the transfer window, you should be okay. I don't really focus too much. I know I probably should. I don't really focus too much on finances on Football Manager. I only briefly look over it towards the end of the season, and this looks completely the same headline, apart from we're only bringing in 1,000 for that one. Commercial summary, we've announced 3 new sponsorship deals which will bring in 1.6 mil per year. Is that all? Broadcasting revenues, the competition prize total to 134 million, an increase of 9.5 from the season before. The club saw a strong increase in sales in the USA. That's because we toured over there at the start of this season. The club sold a total of 26,000 shirts, with the following shirt names selling particularly well: Nani in first, Delph in second, Ings third, Kante fourth, and Lana Cole in fifth. No way! Stadium expansions planned, announced. So we're expanding again to the Greenhouse Meadow, this time to 6,425 seats more. It's going to cost around about 7.7 mil. The board are delighted to announce that they have been able to finance the project without having to secure any external funding. This is excellent news, and it's going to take 7 months. The ground's capacity will be temporarily reduced as part of the North Stand will be closed. Awesome. We're going to still be at the Greenhouse Meadow next season, potentially playing Champions League football under the floodlights. It's going to be amazing. And we've got the annual youth set audit for Shrewsbury. I'll go through that in a bit. Hertha Berlin have been relegated from the Bundesliga. They've sacked their manager as well. Let's keep moving on here, folks. So yeah, this isn't normally something I'd show in the series. This is something I'd normally be doing off camera now, going through the summer, looking at players to bring in. What have we got here? Lionel Cole, yes, he's put pen to paper. He has signed a new contract, which is for 4 years. It's worth 10 million. I offered him a new contract simply because his release clause was 11 million, and because he performed so well this season, I feared that we were going to see him go for 11 million, and I think he's worth more than that. So I've upped his release clause to somewhere around about 30-40 million, which I believe is kind of worth now. And I think he wants to stay at Shrewsbury Town. I mean, you can see, look at his value, 25 million. So the release clause goes up now to 30. So if there is a team like Real Madrid that want him, they're going to have to pay up. And look at that. Favourite personnel, Peyton. It's brilliant to see. Always puts a smile on my face. What's he been saying here? Thinks Todd Kane is a good player. He most certainly is. I think it's time to just go and have a quick review of all the players that I signed in the summer transfer window and beyond as well in January, if you remember that. So, if you remember, we managed to stay in the Premier League last season. I was handed a budget of around about 70 million. I spent 66 million of that on pure talent. Marcus Rashford was my first signing of 800,000. Yes, I haven't given him much game time this season, and he has been out on loan a few times as well. Kind of feel bad, but there's always next season. He's still at that young age. Perrin, what a keeper. He's took over well and truly from Jason Leutwiler, and I kind of feel bad, but Perrin is the number one choice now, and he's picked up an average rating of 7.28 in the Premier League, 7.27 overall. What a keeper. If you're looking for a new keeper, go for Perrin. Up next was Danny Ings from Newcastle for 4 million. An absolute bargain, especially the performances we were getting out of him. I managed to get 15 goals in the Premier League from Danny Ings for 4 million. He's picked up an average rating of 7.21 in the Premier League, 7.8 in the FA Cup. He was our top goal scorer in the FA Cup, 7.27 overall, and his value is 19.25 mil. He was an absolute bargain. You can see He wasn't getting much game time. He did in his first season at Liverpool. Then they dropped off. And then Newcastle, it was just dire for him. He only picked up 6 games there. And didn't even manage to get a goal. But he's come to Shrewsbury, 32 games under his belt. And 15 goals. And then there was Kante from Leicester for 3.2 mil. What a player. 7.64 rating in the Premier League. 7.62 overall. He's not one for scoring goals. He doesn't need to because he pulls the strings in midfield. Then there was Courtney Howes. I wanted him to come along with his Wolves teammate Iorfa. I think that's how you pronounce his name. But Iorfa didn't want to move. He went to City in the end in January. But Courtney Howes, I feel, has done exceptionally well and didn't really need his former teammate at Wolves, Iorfa. And I did bring in Ruiz as well from the Valencia B team, simply because what I had in mind was to have him at left back, Howes at left centre back, Reece Oxford at right centre back, and Todd Kane at right back. But obviously that didn't work out. Granderson was brilliant for us this season. Then up next was Fabian Delph. I did sign quite a few players from Man City in the summer, 3 in total. Some would probably say that's more than enough from Man City, but I feel as though Delph, I mean, you look at his stats here. I know one of you guys were kind of put off by Delph, but you can see what he's managed to do for us. 76% of his passing was a success, and he managed to get an average rating of 7.49. You put him in the right role, the right position, he will perform for you. And the deal for Nani, yes, he was another player that came from Man City. I wasn't put off by his age. And I think people need to keep that in mind on Football Manager, is not to be put off too much by age. If they've got experience, they've got the quality, they could come in and do the job for at least a season or two. Then Sully Kaikai came on a free. Not much needs to be said there, but Reece Oxford, wow, at the age of 20, look at his value, 21.5 million. He has had probably one of the best seasons. Well, he's only 20. He hasn't had that many seasons in the professional world of football. But it doesn't get any better than that. In his first season here as well, he got the FA Cup. You can see 86% of his tackles were won. And he made a total of 132 tackles. This is all in the Premier League, keep in mind. And his average rating was 7.13. Amazing for a 20-year-old. Coming into the Premier League at centre-back. And here's another player from Man City. He's on loan, though, Thierry Ambrose. But he started 7 games, came off the bench 26 times in the Premier League. Managed to get 13 goals to his name. And they were all important goals. Some were winning goals as well in massive games. And then in the January transfer window, I signed Matthew Pennington from Fulham. He went back on loan to Fulham, so he's pretty much spent the season with them. But he will be joining up with the first team squad come next season. Looking forward to that. Really strengthening the back line. Lewis Reed, another player, 21. His value certainly shot right up to 8.5 mil there. He's another player a bit like Kante. Doesn't get on the score sheet much, but he does pull the strings. He does do a lot of work in midfield. It's like a well-oiled machine. And this season, I'm going to put it out there, might get slaughtered for this in the comments below, but he has reminded me a lot like Paul Scholes. He's a player that's not afraid to get forwards, but for the majority of the time, he will sit deep, always got his eye on the ball, can read the game well, and is always ready to pick out the pass, whoever it be. In our case, for this season, it's been exploiting the flanks. He's been picking out the passes to Nani or Lon or Cole on the left or the right. That's how he instructs my players. That's in my tactic, which I'll go through in a minute. And as you can see here in his stats in all competitions, when it comes to passes, he's made a total of 1,962. He's succeeded in 86% of that, of 1,684, and only failed in 278, which, you know, I think you'll see an improvement as he gets older. I mean, he's only 20 at the moment. As he gets older, I think that failed area will decrease. Well, I hope so anyway. And going back to comparing Reed with Paul Scholes, Reed doesn't make as many fouls as Scholes used to do, as his 0.3 there with fouls against. But he doesn't dribble as much, which again Scholes didn't really do in his time at Manchester United. And speaking of Scholes as well, I'm not sure if I went over this in a previous episode, but Scholes is actually part of our coaching team, which is just perfect for someone like Lewis Reed. What experience he's going to be getting from such a world-class player in his day. But there we go. That is Lewis Reed. As I say, I think he's just going to get better as he gets older, and I can't wait to see what he's going to be capable of next season when we go up yet another level as we are in the Champions League. We've got to get through the qualification stages first, and then we could be in the hat for the group stages. So can't wait to see what he's got in store, how he's going to perform under that type of pressure. He's certainly got a first team spot in the Shrewsbury Town side, so you guys are just going to have to stay tuned for that. The fixture list for next season's been announced. No way, Shrewsbury will kick off the new season at home to newly promoted Everton, who only spent a season in the Championship. Our first away match will be against the beaten FA Cup finalists Liverpool at Anfield. Amazing. And then we play the champions Man United on the 21st. And then we play them at Old Trafford on the 28th. So we play United in the same month twice. And the traditional Boxing Day fixture will see us against Man City at the Greenhouse Meadow. Let's have a look at the fixtures in their all. So we've got United in the Community Shield final because we won the FA Cup and they won the Premier League, of course. Then we start off against the two Merseyside teams, Everton, Liverpool, Tottenham, Arsenal. What a start to the season. Crystal Palace, who I think secured Europa League football for next season because we won the FA Cup. But look at this. What an end to the season as well. You've got Chelsea, Man City in there and everything else in between. It's going to be a tough season. I think it's going to be tougher than it was the season just gone. We've been given 90 million, or we will receive 90 million for our Premier League rights. Community Shield pits Shrewsbury against Manchester United at Wembley. We'll be returning back to Wembley. Got so many good memories there already. Oh, season expectations. Right, so we've got this will determine our new transfer budget. So, yes, it's tempting to just go for everything at the end and then up our transfer and wage budget, but I've got to be realistic. Can we I'm just thinking of the Champions League, can we just reach the group stage, get past that qualification stage? Or can we, I'll say for the FA Cup, we'll reach the semi-final or the 6th round. For the Capital One Cup, we haven't performed well in the Capital One Cup over the past 4 seasons, so I could do that. But I think for the FA Cup, we'll go 6th round. For the Capital One Cup, we'll say quarter-final. We'll leave it at that. I'm certain we'll qualify for the Champions League in the Premier League this season. But we'll say, keeping it realistic with the Champions League, we'll reach the group stage. I think that's fair enough. And that will up my transfer budget to 54 million with a wage budget of 1.03 mil. So a lot to play with in this summer transfer window. Right, I'm going to go across now to tactics. I'm just going to quickly go over that and explain my thought process. And we'll just go from there and probably move on to how I go about business in the transfer market. So firstly, I might as well just quickly go through Season 4's tactics and how we managed to be so successful. So as you can see, started off with the 4-3-3 formation. The familiarity, everything seems to be nailed down, accomplished, or we're either fluid in it. For the mentality, I always set that to control. That's mainly used, as you can see here. This mentality is best employed for matches in which you believe you are the stronger team, but are wary of your opponent's counter-attacking mentality. It aims to move the ball around the park and to patiently probe the final third. It also involves the full backs overlapping, midfielders breaking ahead of the forwards. Just how I want the team to play. I mean, as a fan of Manchester United, under Sir Alex, you'd always see them when they would attack, they would have the fullbacks join in the attack. They would be pressing so much, but they would also be wary of the counter-attack from the opposition. You rarely saw that, and we've rarely seen it this season because the team, it's been well drilled into the players, let's put it that way. Now, for tempo, I normally go for lower. It just basically means, as you can see, we play in a patient manner, we retain possession, and I find that if you play at a higher pace, you're at more risk of losing the ball, probably at risk of losing a goal or two as well. And I don't like seeing my teams on FM being pressurised. So playing at our own pace, or rather setting the pace of the match, is a must. And sometimes it can force the opposition to make a few mistakes of their own. For closing down now, I think this is one of the main things you need to be focusing on. Normally I go for less, which means that we hold on to a solid defensive shape at the back in it. As you can see there, for the opposition it becomes harder for them to break us down. Whereas if you go for a more erratic style closing down, you're going to be leaving those gaps in the defence, and the opposition, they're going to exploit that all day long. I always go for shorter passing. Again, it just complements the lower tempo, the whole defensive shape as well, and playing out of defence. Whereas if you go for that more direct passing, yes, you're pumping the ball forwards as quick as possible, but you can lose it as well. And that, of course, could be the difference between a goal or two. Always play out of defence. Again, all going along with that lower tempo. Some games will have to exploit both flanks, or will exploit the middle. Depends on which team are playing which players. And I always like the overlap, as we've got Ruiz just going on beyond Nani. It's just like United, how they would normally go about business when Sir Alex was in charge, if you ever go back and watch some of those tapes. For the player instructions, not too much to it really. For players like Ruiz, well, his instructions at the moment, they're still set from the FA Cup final that we've just played against Liverpool, but it was to get further forwards. Normally I would have him playing out wider, and then obviously my Nani, who is on the left wing up front, would be sitting a bit narrow because he's going to be cutting inside, and then Ruiz is going to act as another option for him to pass out to on the left side. Shoot less often. I found that if you take that off, you're going to be getting fullbacks going for goal, and you don't want to be seeing that because they're not always the best. Yes, I'm sure they've got powerful shots in them, but you don't want to be giving away too much of the ball, especially with silly shots going into row Z. Now for Todd Kane over on the right, you can see run wide with the ball. He and Lionel Cole have worked magnificently down this right side, as you've seen throughout this season. Incredible. Now for Kante, in this position, the deep line playmaker, it would normally be Lewis Reed. He's started in that position throughout the whole of this season pretty much, whereas I decided against Reed. He seemed to have just dropped off towards the end of the season, the last couple of fixtures, so Kante came in and replaced him. But this midfield, these three players, apart from Luis Alberto, have been brilliant. Yes, Alberto came in at the later stages because obviously I dropped Lewis Reed basically, but he's fitted in nicely. That advanced playmaker, you can see with his passing is at 16. That's pretty decent for a 26-year-old. Can probably get a bit better as he's got a couple more years. I don't think he's reached his peak just yet. Probably be about 28 for Lewis Reed with how he's going on, if I keep giving him first team football. But as you can see, Lewis Reed, he's also got 16 passing. He's only at 21. So with his composure, that's two of the main attributes that you want to be looking out for. Someone that's going to be sitting deep there, that can really pick out a pass. Yes, I don't have more direct passing on. It's shorter passing, but he's still going to be able to zip that ball around the pitch with ease and staying on top of it as well without the worry of giving it away too much. And you just got to be looking at what position suits which player by looking at their attributes. It's as simple as that, really. For Nani, now sometimes it would be Sully Kai fitting into this role. I would keep these player instructions exactly the same for Kai or Nani. Have him sitting narrower, or just have him pushing forwards and have Ruiz getting, or making himself as another option, as I've already mentioned. And with Kane and Cole, they've executed that perfectly this season. And I've found, I'm not sure if any of you guys have come across this, but if you have, how can you say, perfect symmetry in players' positions and instructions, I find that the opposition, it doesn't matter who you come up against, they recognise that with the first 10, 15, 20 minutes of the game, they exploit it. Whereas if you've got different player instructions on both sides of the pitch, then they're going to find it a bit more difficult to deal with. So, for example, for some games for Shrewsbury Town, yes, you've got Kane and Cole doing the whole attacking overlap sort of thing, which has worked so well, as I keep saying. But on the other side, on the left, you've got Ruiz just sitting behind Nani sometimes. Nani getting a bit more further forwards or cutting inside, whereas Ruiz is just there in support. And I'll sometimes have him hit an early cross from the left side and Nani gets into the box, you know. But all that has certainly helped us get to where we are today. I mean, we've gone within 4 seasons, we've gone from League One to the Championship to the Premier League. The first season in the Premier League was brilliant. We got into the top half of the table, and then this season just gone, well, we finished in a Champions League spot. We won the FA Cup against Liverpool. I wonder what is going to happen next season. Okay, so for transfers, what do I do? How do I find players that will fit the team perfectly? Well, to start off with, I simply just come and have a quick little browse of the scouting page. I've got my conditions set, transfer status listed. Let's see who's available. I've got 54 million in the bank. Normally, there's quite a few good players listed. I mean, you've got Juan Cuadrado here from Chelsea, 31 years of age, but I mean, he can play out on the right, maybe a backup for Lionel Cole if he was to pick up an injury next season, because obviously with more fixtures going to be coming available with the Champions League and so on, we might need that. But you can see with Cuadrado, his stats certainly in the right direction, and he's 31 years of age. I mean, don't be put off by age on Football Manager, because whether they're going to be staying with you for a season or two, they can still put in a good shift. I mean, look at Nani last season with what he was able to accomplish. Okay, yes, his pace and his stamina may go down slightly. I mean, the legs are still there though. Pace 11, but his first touch 16, dribbling 18, crossing 13. His passing, he was brilliant for us. He was one of our top goal scorers. So they can still do a good job for you. It doesn't really matter of the age. And look at this. Kevin Strootman. What a player. He's pretty injury prone, I know, but it's a risk to take. He's available. Well, he's valued at 15.25 and he's on the transfer list at the age of 29. If I was to go make an offer now, you can see that Roma are looking for 7.5 million. As I say, I could take the risk with Strootman, and he could be fit all season without picking up an injury and could be amazing for us. Sebastian Roda, former Bayern Munich player, 28 years of age, can mainly play in that defensive mid role as a ball-winning midfielder. You can see his stats there. But I know you're probably wondering, well, how do you recognise which position you need to strengthen in the summer, Peyton? Well, let's take a look at our right-back position for a start. So at the moment we've got, that's not what I want to do. Can I highlight these in any way just to make them stand out? There we go. So we've only got 3 players who can really play in right back. You've got Todd Kane, Granderson and Kevin Long, more so as a central defender. So might have to strengthen there in the summer. For our centre-backs, we've got Courtney House, Reece Oxford, who was amazing for us last season in that position, along with Jermaine Granderson and also Kevin Long for a couple of games. But again, with the Champions League on the horizon and more fixtures abound, we may have to bring in another player or two for that position. And look at our left-back. How have I managed? Yes, okay, Courtney House is a versatile player, can play at left-back as well, but 2 left-backs? How have I managed last season? Seriously, makes me wonder. Central midfield, we've got Wes Lewoski, Fabian Delph, Jordan Clark, Nani. Jordan Clark went out on loan for the majority of last season. Alberto and N'Golo Kante. So you've got 5 central midfielders. Wes Lewoski, age 31. He's got great mental attributes, but is he going to be good enough? I will keep him in the side because he's a legendary Shrewsbury Town player. So I can't bring myself to get rid of him. And for my forwards, got Luke Williams, who I think is on the way out anyway. Danny Ings, Marcus Rashford, Sully Kaikai, who I normally use as a left winger anyway, but can play as a striker. So again, another position I'm going to have to strengthen. So that would bring me over to the scouting page once again. And you just got to look at the conditions here. So we go to position, striker. It's as simple as that, really. And see who's available. Will Keane, Zarate. We've got Jonathan Abika on the list. Granted, at the moment, I'm not seeing many players standing out that I think could fit into to this Shrewsbury Town side. Andre Gray. So you can either wait maybe a week or two, couple of weeks, see if anything changes on that scouting list, or you can simply go over to a country like, let's go with Spain. Sometimes I'll go over to La Liga. We can see with the season stats, we know that Real Madrid picked up 104 points there, won La Liga as well, with Valencia coming in second, Barcelona in third. Let's have a look at some of the stats. So Ronaldo got top goal scorer. How about this guy from Real Betis, Roscoff? I think that's how you pronounce his name. I'm not sure. He's from Argentina. 21 years of age, scored 17 goals in La Liga. It's quite some feat, that. And he's valued at 2.6 mil. A player to keep our eye on. Could be an absolute bargain as well, actually. Might keep an eye on that guy. Or you've got, how about most key tackles? Maybe I felt as though I was lacking in tackles this season. It could apply to your season on FM16. So Rocco could be an option. How about we move over to, let's have a look at Italy, shall we? Can we see in Serie A? Oh, they've got no stats here. I suppose you could always go through each team, but I'm not sure if they're going to show their stats as well. I normally fail on that part, but you get the idea, you get the gist. One thing that has worked for me over the last couple of seasons is bringing in players on loan. I mean, look at Ng from Tottenham last season and Thierry Ambrose this season. If you give these players game time, I mean, they've probably been given instructions from their manager at their parent club to make sure that they're working. If they want to be playing for, let's say for Ambrose's case, if they want to be in the first team at City, then they've got to really perform at Shrewsbury. And that's what Ambrose did. So we may see him in the City side next season. We may even come up against him at the Etihad. And one of the key things on Football Manager is consistency. I can't stress it enough. If you have consistency in your team selection as well as formation and instructions, the team's just going to get better and better. Yeah, you may have a rocky start to the season, but just have a little bit of faith in it. Keep it basic as well. Don't go over the top with instruction after instruction. Just keep it basic, keep it well drilled, keep it consistent, and hopefully you'll get there. Now, to finish up with this episode, this season review, if you will, I'm going to let you guys in on a player I'm thinking about bringing to Shrewsbury for next season, Vladimir Dalida. Don't ask me why I've just said it like that, but at the age of 28, I think he can I think he's a decent little player. Can really come and help us in both the Premier League and the Champions League. Also, whilst I think about scouts, of course, scouts help you out a lot. I've just appointed Ruben Vega as my chief scout, new chief scout, because our old one retired. He was getting on a bit, but you're going to be looking at judging player ability, potential, determination, and he also comes along with a list of his own players that he's been looking at lately. How do I get to that? Where is his list? Oh, you can see all of his history there, the teams that he's been at. There we go, reports. So you can see he comes with his own list. I mean, he's got Ever Banega in there. Babic. There's a 4-star rating. Pablo Piatti, 30 years of age. Could do a job for us down the left side if I was to sell on Nane. Pablo Piatti, I mean, is wanted by a club. Could be a couple of clubs involved with the race for his signature, so could put our name in there. Who else is on this list? Got Karasic. How about Donnarumma? Is that how you pronounce his name for Real Madrid? He's valued at 725. We all know who Donnarumma is. What an upcoming talent he is in goal as well. Would be pretty sweet to bring him to Shrewsbury, but I've got Perrin at the moment. Anyway, that's going to be it for this episode. I do hope you guys have enjoyed Season 4. It's been epic, and I'm sure Season 5 is going to be even bigger than this year. Also, just quickly, I will be putting the save file up for download on Steam, so if you want to be playing this save, see how well you can get on, see if you can do better than me, you can do so freely. I just need to figure out how to do that first. but I will let you all know. I'll put the link in the description below for you to download and whatnot. And with that, guys, I'll end it there. Thanks for watching. See you all for Season 5.